That's how it should be. But anyway, that's not the world we live in anymore. So I'm just glad these guys got caught. I hope more people get caught. Obviously, if you have one of these trucks, there are a bunch of aftermarket companies that make solutions for this to lock down everything from the front headlights to the rear tail lights to not just lock your tailgate, but to make it impossible to actually take the screws and stuff out once you open that. There's solutions. It sucks that you have to do that, but it's probably worth it, even if you have insurance, because whatever premium is going to go up after you have to make a claim on this, you probably could have just paid for the aftermarket parts to make them harder to steal at least. So, glad to see these guys are going to jail. I hope they go to jail for a long time. Long, long time. Make an example out of them. The rest of the guys doing this need to stop. So,
from Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
And here we are, rocking it on the Automotive ADHD Show. I am Matt West, talking cars with you for the weekend. We are going to talk about how Ferrari continues doing what they do best. Suing customers. Yes, Ferrari is no stranger to sending cease and desists and suing their own customers. And now they have a little bit, I think they're having an existential crisis. You see, they have a custom delivery, a customization sector of their company. Order your Ferrari however you want it. Well, now they have to decide, do A, they build the Ferrari how the customer ordered it, or B, sue the customer. Yeah. This is a tough decision for Ferrari. We're going to get into that. Dodge is now finally sending the EV Charger to journalists. And all of these journalists are saying, yes, it is a real muscle car. It is true to form. And, well, I'm here to say that they're wrong. Every single one of them. And we're going to talk about what exactly is a muscle car. We're going to get to that. And I'll tell you what, spoiler, it's not that EV Dodge Charger. That's for sure. Oh, yeah. And we're going to follow up on a topic from a few months back where I discussed how thieves are stealing $2,700 Ford F-350 taillights. And now a bunch of, wise guys on the internet, commenters on the YouTube video of that. It got a lot of traction, by the way, tons of comments. A lot of people said, you don't know what you're talking about. Those taillights are $48 on Amazon. They're not $2,700. Well, tell that to the guys, the group of guys who just got busted as part of an organized crime ring stealing Ford F-Series taillights. And guess what? They were caught with a $100,000 worth of taillights on them. So we're going to get to all of that and some of your car sounds. I got some new ones in the mix for this show, and they're really good. I think you'll like them. So all of that to look forward to and more. Of course, you can catch this show on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Spotify, on video, by the way, wherever fine shows and this one are downloaded. Or you might be listening to this on the radio all across southern Colorado. Now, you might recall last week I confessed to having purchased a Subaru. Yeah, I know, a Subaru of all things. But I had a really good deal on a brand new 2024 WRX certified pre-owned with 700 miles. And I got a stellar deal on it. And I am happy to report that after a week, the car has not exploded. In fact, the head gaskets, knock on wood, appear to be intact even, which I know that's not a very high bar to set, but coming from previous Subaru ownership, that is the bar I have previously set. In fact, the last Subaru I bought blew the head gaskets within a week. So now, was it my fault? Did I blow the head gaskets? Was it the previous owner? I don't know. All I know is the car started vaping, and the car is not supposed to be vaping. That's supposed to be, at least if we're talking about Subaru drivers, yes, the driver is supposed to vape, not the car. So, yeah, I know it's not a high bar to set, but I am past the milestone of my last Subaru ownership. So I think we're doing good. Then again, time is fleeting. You never know what will be your last head gasket or your final ringland. You never know when you own a Subaru. So we will see. Now, speaking of that, Jim Miller has sent me endless Subaru memes. He is relentless in the onslaught of Subaru memes. I don't even know how he has time to do it all. He sends me hundreds of memes about Subarus. And how is he having time to do this when he's running for city council in District 5 here in Colorado Springs? I quite frankly don't know. But in case you missed the show a couple of weeks ago, Jim Miller is on the ballot in District 5 for Colorado Springs. I'm not in District 5, but I would, if I was in District 5, I would vote for Jim Miller. He's the only candidate on the ballot who is a car guy, who respects your private property rights and your ability to work on cars and enjoy your hobby, among many, many other things. But he has a great stance when it comes to cars. Now, you may not know this if you're just listening on the podcast, if you're online only, or maybe even on the radio. There is a law. Well, there's a regulation, I should clarify, from the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. And they say if I have a candidate on the airwaves, that I have to log precisely how much time that candidate was on the air and then offer equal airtime to the other candidates. It's weird. This is not something podcasting has to deal with. Joe Rogan can have 10 million listeners in a day and he doesn't have to do this. But if we've got a transmitter covering, a state, of less than 10 million, well, we have to do that. But regardless, what that means, I get to put out an open invitation. This is exciting. So because I had Jim Miller on the show a couple of weeks ago, that means if you are in District 5 and you are running for city council, you can be on my show. And actually, I'll extend this even further. You heard it here first. Any city council candidate, whether you're in District 5 or not, I will invite onto my show under one condition, which is that we must talk about cars. I talked about cars with Jim Miller. We didn't talk about any other policy things. Only if there was anything policy related, it was related to cars. So if you are running for city council and you would like to come on my show and talk about cars, maybe your position on how we should treat cars in this city, your position on the roads, or we just talk about your cars. Maybe you have some cool cars. Come on my show. I don't think many will take up that invitation. So there is an open door for that. And of course, you can get a hold of the folks here at the radio station for that. So anyway, I got to talk a little bit about owning a Subaru. Well, actually, before we get into more of that, this is a funny story. I don't know if Jim Miller being on city council would have helped with this problem, but I had a funny instance happen. So let me throw this out there. Let me put it this way, right? So I rent the residence in which I live. I rent the house I have right now. I'm in the market to buy. I have been in the market before previously, but things didn't make sense with interest rates and all that. So I decided to keep renting. Well, I'm ready to buy, and I want to buy a house, and I want to buy a house with a nice garage. In fact, I always just look for garages. Whenever you're home shopping, if you're a car guy, you know the struggle. They post all the pictures of the bedrooms and the living room and the bathrooms, the mudroom, the closets, but not the garage. They don't even mention the garage. Like maybe in the description, 2-car garage. Okay, is that garage insulated? Does it have is it like a full-size 2-car garage? Is it extra deep? Can it fit a pickup truck? What is it? Does it have a big post in the middle where it would make it hard to work on cars? They don't tell you. But so I rent, and if you're watching on video, you can see I'm in the garage studio. The A86 is back there. The S2000 is over there, not running. Actually, that's not true. It does run. It just doesn't drive. Distinction there. There's a big difference. So anyway, so with that being said, I rent, and this is where all of this comes in, because I got a note on my door, and I've been at this property for 3 years, never had any issues with the rental company. And I get a note on the door that says, urgent, we need to inspect your property. This is a 24-hour notice. We will arrive and inspect your property. And I'm like, well, that's weird, out of the blue. And guess what? So what happens, this was literally yesterday, dude shows up and he knocks on the door, answered the door. He's like, hey, if anyone's in there who shouldn't be in there, get them out right now before we do the inspection. I'm giving you a heads up. I'm being nice. And I'm like, what? I'm like, hold on, backtrack. What are you talking about? He's like, all the people that live here. who shouldn't be here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, well, we did. One of our managers drove by and saw all the cars, and we're assuming that you have people living here, that you're subleasing your rooms out to people who you shouldn't be. It should just be, the official people on the lease, you on this lease. And I said, I'm not following. I'm a car guy. I got like 9 cars, but it's just me. There's 4 in the driveway. There's 2 in the street, 1 next to the driveway, 2 in the garage. Yeah. Anyway, and I give him a tour of the whole place, and he's like, oh, you're right. You just are a car guy who has more cars than friends, obviously. So, he said they were also concerned that I was harboring illegal immigrants, which I'm glad they asked first instead of just sending ICE in to kick the door down. So that also probably would have been funny. They just saw all the car parts and stuff and no one else here. So anyway, you're listening to the Automotive ADHD show. We'll be right back after the break.
This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
Yes, it is. So those car sounds were from Jason Cyrus, his 1956 Chevy Nomad with a 383 stroker. You gotta love a good 383 stroker. Man, that thing sounded fantastic. You can send your car sounds into my show, facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. And when you do that, you have a chance to win the Automotive ADHD key tag, the As Heard on the Automotive ADHD show sticker, as seen here on video, by the way, on the back of my laptop. And you can also win the Automotive ADHD care package, which includes all of that and some other random goodies, hopefully some things that you'll find useful. Last time I sent out a bunch of 10 millimeter socket sets. Yeah, just 10s. They're literally just 10 millimeters in there. I saved one for myself, but I lost it already. It just disappeared. So, by the way, PSA, it's really easy to lose 10 millimeter sockets. If you've ever seen the 10 millimeter socket keychain, it's like a little keychain. It's a socket on a little ring, and then you put it on your keychain as a spare. Don't get that. You'll lose your keys, obviously. The entire set of keys will just go missing. So, anyway, now I was mentioning, by the way, my problems with house shopping as a car guy. And it can be challenging. It can be challenging to find the right place. Obviously, realtors aren't, prioritizing garages or anything useful like that. I mean, I'm really buying the house just for the garage. I'll be real. I'm just buying it for the garage. Like the rest of it, I don't care about that. I can sleep in the garage. It's fine. If it has a bathroom, that's good. That way, you don't have to go outside or whatever, especially when it's cold. But anyway, so I did want to throw this out there because I was thinking of this during the break. If you are a realtor in Colorado Springs, I'm in the market for a house. I'm going to work on getting all the financing pre-approved. We're going to get that all knocked out and done. That way you can just go find a house, okay? And if you are a realtor in Colorado Springs, let's work out a deal. Let's do a little bit of a sponsorship on my show. Let's get you some airtime here, and in exchange, maybe you can help me find a house that has a decent garage. Probably won't be hard because I don't really care about the rest of the house. It's just got to have a decent garage, and maybe one that's insulated if I can be that picky. So anyway, you can get in touch with me as well on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. Send me a direct message on there. Or you can email me directly, matt@throttlewarrior.com. So now I've been driving, like I said at the top of the show, I've been driving my Subaru I've been driving it for more than a week now. And I have to say, touchscreens, I'm not a fan of them. It has a big touchscreen right in the middle of the dashboard. And, it's interesting. I have been very critical of touchscreens on this show in the past. It's just how it is. And with that being the case, people have criticized me online. Commenters have said, well, yeah, what would you know? You don't actually own a car with a big touchscreen in it. You don't know anything about that. You're just saying that because you have old cars and you're upset because your cars don't have touchscreens. And that's not true. That's not true at all. One of the reasons for buying the new Subaru was also to buy a new car. This show has a fleet of broken down cars. I was counting. I got like 9 cars here at the house right now. I don't want to talk about what percentage of those actually run. I don't feel like that's relevant to this discussion. Just throwing that out there. But anyway, and they're typically all older. But here's the thing. With that touchscreen, I've used it now for a little bit, and I still don't like it. I am not a fan of it. It just something about it doesn't work for me, especially when you're driving on the roads here in Colorado Springs, and they are bumpy. They are terrible. They are third world even. If you're on Woodman, coming up on I-25, the radio station's right off of Woodman and I-25. It's behind the Carrabba's Italian restaurant. And that section of Woodman was chip sealed a couple of years ago. Well, that chip seal, that stuff is supposed to be a temporary solution. It's not like a full paving job. And that chip seal is all failed now. There's huge ruts in it. There's sections of it that are missing. And the rest of it that's there is just turned into gravel. It's terrible. You drive on there, you're getting rocks thrown up at you. I literally hear the gravel being tossed around underneath the car like I'm driving on a dirt road. And with that, it's bumpy. And I'm trying to, change a song on Spotify and the touchscreen. I'm trying to change a radio station to, AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer, or 100.7 The Word, either of those. Of course, we're hearing this right now. And my finger's like bouncing around on the screen. It's hard. I have to like rest my hand on the gear shift, sort of like my wrist on the gear shift, then hit the buttons because your arm's going to bounce around so much. Now, maybe this isn't a problem for people living in like California with, smooth roads and stuff because they don't have winter, for example, like at all. And maybe that's not a problem there, but it is here. That's one of my gripes with it. The other gripe is that it has problems with it's responsive, sure, but I don't like that the HVAC controls are integrated into it. Now, Subaru sort of took a half position on this. They're sort of in the middle. You get an up and down button for your temperature. Those are physical buttons, and you get a defroster button, front defroster, rear defroster. Those are buttons, things you would want to have, you'd want to be able to do with gloves on. But the rest of it, determining where the other vents, all of that, the proportioning there, it's all in the touchscreen, and I don't like it because also, having that screen on at night, I don't like the screen on at night personally. It bugs me. So you can turn the screen off. Yes, there's a setting that you can go screen off, and it goes completely dark. It's not even just a black screen. It's like dark. It's off. Okay, well, now I want to change the vents from face to feet. I have to turn the screen back on, then go into there and do that. Like, come on, why? Can you just give me a slider? Can you just give me knobs to turn? Now, I like part of the screen for the navigation. It's nice having the maps there. But I've said this before on the show. You can have physical buttons in the center stack and then have the screen part be in your gauge cluster. In fact, have it be the entire gauge cluster. I actually really like that when the whole screen or the whole gauge cluster is a screen in and of itself. And I actually like that because then you have the navigation and it's natural. You look down, you just glance down and your navigation's right there. Oh, I know I'm taking this exit. I'm going here. I got to turn right over there. That's more intuitive than looking to the side. It just makes sense to me. So give me physical buttons there in the center stack. And maybe you have a smaller screen for the radio. Fine. You got a smaller screen for the radio, whatever. But give me physical buttons there. And I think this is all a conspiracy, by the way, to put more advertisements in your car. It is. It really is. Having the screens right now, they're acclimating us to it. They're bringing us to a boil. They're boiling us slowly, just incrementally raising the temperature. That's what they're doing. And there's proof of it here. We now are seeing proof of this. In fact, I think this is proof that we are truly in a fallen world at this point. The end times are near. This is unfortunate. According to The Drive, a number of Jeep owners are getting spammed with advertisements in their Uconnect infotainment system. Headline reads, Jeep is spamming drivers with extended warranty ads through Uconnect infotainment. And what this is, they're not ads for outside things right now, not third-party things. These are ads for Mopar's in-house extended manufacturer warranty. And it reads something like this. It takes over your entire center screen, by the way. Like if you had the radio up there, too bad. You had your climate control up there, too bad. Takes over the whole thing. You can X out of it and get back to those. But come on, why is it doing that? Now, what it says, it goes, purchase peace of mind. Mopar Vehicle Protection Maximum Care Plans are factory backed and offer you peace of mind in case of mechanical breakdown, which will happen, by the way, frequently because you're driving a Mopar vehicle. It doesn't say that. That's my editorial comment. Then it goes, press the call button to speak to a specialist. Or it says, press the call button to speak to a specialist. Odometer must be less than 36,000 miles to purchase. Here's the problem. A number of users online are pointing out that A, they're getting spammed with these ads frequently, sometimes as much as every time they get in the car now. And then here's one owner online even says, quote, I hit 36,000 miles last week. It started coming up yesterday. They're not even eligible for it. Even if they wanted it, even if they said, yeah, I want to talk to that specialist right now. Guess what? They couldn't do it because they're past 36,000 miles. So, for one, it's a problem that this is coming up. And you might say, well, okay, I've got a Jeep. What do I do? Well, Jeep says, or Mopar, Stellantis, come on, pick a name. They're all the same thing. They say the only way to fix this is to go to the Jeep Connect website, create an account, which involves putting in your email, your personal information, and creating a password, and then acknowledging a disclosure, by the way, which probably has all sorts of arbitration clauses in it that are probably not good for you if you ever need to litigate anything with your vehicle. And then you can cancel the ads that are coming up. So for one, it's all a data mining thing. I mean, they're coming at this multi-prong here. I feel like I'm talking about a conspiracy theory, but the problem is the conspiracy theory is coming true. It's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's just a conspiracy. That's what it is. So for one, they are doing this to get your data because you can just hop in. You don't have to create an account or anything to drive the car. You can just drive the car and do that. Well, they need your data because they want to sell your data. So, for one, they spam you with annoying ads, even though you're past the mileage interval where you could even have this factory extended warranty. And then, in order to get rid of that, you have to go make an account, give them your data, and then they have your data, which they're going to sell, by the way. We all know that they do that. General Motors got in trouble for that. Hyundai and Kia were doing that. They were making like 3 cents per user of data they were selling. That's how little they were making. And that's how much they were okay with violating your privacy for 3 cents, by the way. Because realistically, they don't care about you. That's just a fact. So all of this, though, I think has a deeper concern, which is, all right, so Mopar's doing this, A, to sell you a crappy warranty, B, to farm your data when you don't want to buy the crappy warranty, but 3, C, yeah, it works like that. This is just proof that manufacturers are going to start putting ads in the infotainment systems. You got these big screens there, all this real estate, and you're not advertising on it? What are you doing, right? Got all these big screens. The screens are only getting bigger. I mean, before long, if we look at it, like the percentage increase in screen size over the past 5 years, if we take that percentage increase and figure out what that would be in 10 years. If you actually take that same percentage increase over the next 10 years, the screens are going to be larger than the cars themselves. In fact, I think the entire car is going to be screen. The entire thing. It's going to be a gigantic iPad with wheels on it. And I don't know where you'll sit. I guess you'll ride on the touchscreen. I don't know. So, moral of the story, they're going to use this to sell you more ads. This is just the beginning. And sure, I'm on radio here. I guess we're the original, we're the OGs at putting ads in your car, but come on. It's like local stuff. You like radio, but yeah, get rid of this stuff. So, anyway, we're talking about Ferrari and the new Charger EV coming up right here after the break. Man, I got fired up in that last segment. I gotta calm down a bit. Gotta chill for a second. I got so fired up talking about touchscreens and advertisements in cars and all of that. I'm just listen to the music here as we fade it out there. Yeah, there we go. You are listening to the Automotive ADHD show. Matt West here, hanging out with you, talking cars. Those car sounds were from Bale Brown, and you might notice something different than last time. Last time, Bale sent me car sounds, which last time there was horrible crunching noises, banging, popping, explosions. It sounded horrific, in fact. And that truck, by the way, that's a 1994 K1500, with the 6.5 liter, I believe it's the 6.5 liter Detroit diesel in there, and it no longer is making horrible sounds. Yeah, the truck is fixed. It is fixed. The transfer case was replaced, and now it is good to go, making nice turbo sounds. You could hear that turbo, especially as it spooled down there at the end. That was good. Now, of course, you can send your car sounds into my show, facebook.com/automotive-ADHD. And I mean, really, I live vicariously through your car sounds, mostly because my cars don't run half the time. So I actually need your car sounds to survive. I mean, really, it's the only thing that keeps me going. So, yeah, I need them. This is completely selfish for 100% selfish reasons, but send them anyway. Facebook.com/automotive-ADHD. Now, a few months back, I talked about Ford F-Series taillights getting stolen, and I posted this up on video on YouTube as well. And it got a lot of hits on YouTube, like a whole lot. People were surprised. Well, there was a couple reactions. First reaction was obviously, what? I can't believe those are $2,700 for taillights. That's crazy. My old, 93 F-150 taillights were like $20. I got that reaction to, you're an idiot. I can buy those for $43 on Amazon. As if they're the same thing. Just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's the same thing. Also, people were just, I think, astonished that this is even happening in the first place. And it is happening typically to your more expensive, higher trim F-Series trucks. So the higher trim versions of your F-250s and your F-350s. But it is happening to F-150s as well. And the reason is because, well, the taillights are easy to get out. Very easy to get out. You can do it from outside the truck practically. Just bring the tailgate down and a few screws later and you got yourself a taillight. Don't go stealing any taillights, by the way. Don't want any of that. But the other reason is because they are remarkably expensive. Now, the update on this story, if you don't recall, obviously, when the last time I talked about it, because obviously I expect my listeners to have perfect memory of every single topic I talked about ever. But the update now is that there was a crime ring that got busted in the I-45 corridor between Galveston and Houston. And they allegedly, according to law enforcement, made off with $92,000 worth of taillights from 34 victims. 34 victims, $92,000. And there's people here on the internet telling me, yeah, I could buy them for $43 on Amazon. You're dumb. Yeah, sure, wise guy. Go buy them for $43 and let me know how they work. They're probably not going to have all the sensors and all the things in them that, well, they have. That's one of the reasons they're going for these taillights. These taillights are expensive because they're complicated. And because they're complicated, they got a lot of parts. And because they got a lot of parts, well, price goes up. That's how it works. And they have everything from the blind spot monitoring sensors to all this junk in them that really doesn't belong in taillights, in my opinion, because that's one of the problems with these new cars. You add complexity, you add cost. That's how this works. That's just how this works. So the good news is a group of guys who were doing this, and they got charged with conducting an organized crime. They had a whole ring going for this. It wasn't just like some dude on his, after work or, or whatever, going out and stealing a taillight or two. I mean, this was organized. They were doing this in bulk. And here's some crazy numbers here, looking at some of the prices, because people also didn't believe that some of these were $2,700. In many cases, they are. Not every model it's going to be $27,000. There's going to be some differences. But for example, a OEM rear left side taillight for a 2023 F350 is $1,980.37, excluding tax. By the way, a headlight for that truck, that's $1,600. And then going here, a non-LED taillight for that same truck. So if it's the non-LED version and it's on the lower trim one and it doesn't have all the monitors in it, is still $494.95 from the dealer. Like, holy cow. In comparison, a 2013 F350 without all that junk in it, $63. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. But anyway, that's not the world we live in anymore. So I'm just glad these guys got caught. I hope more people get caught. Obviously, if you have one of these trucks, there are a bunch of aftermarket companies that make solutions for this to lock down everything from the front headlights to the rear tail lights, to not just lock your tailgate, but to make it impossible to actually take the screws and stuff out once you open that. There's solutions. It sucks that you have to do that, but it's probably worth it, even if you have insurance, because whatever premium is going to go up after you have to make a claim on this, you probably could have just paid for the aftermarket parts to make them harder to steal at least. So, glad to see these guys are going to jail. I hope they go to jail for a long time. Long time. Make an example out of them. The rest of the guys doing this need to stop. So, now I got to talk a little bit about Ferrari here. Ferrari, you may be familiar with, sells, obviously, sports cars. They sell expensive sports cars. They've done that for a long time. And I guess the guy who founded them liked horses or something. I don't know. It has a horse on the logo. You can tell I'm a supercar guy. Totally. By like the crusty Honda with the K24 in it behind me, the rusty Toyota over there, the other Toyotas in the driveway. Yeah, I'm definitely a supercar guy. 100%. But having said that, I like it when supercar owners do things that annoy Ferrari. Famously, the EDM musician, he's EDM, I don't know what genre you would call him, I'm probably offending someone, but Deadmau5 famously made the Ferrari. He took one of his Ferraris and put a cat logo on it and like replaced the Ferrari badge with like a dancing cat instead and called it the Ferrari. And that was cool and all. He did it because, why? He's got a ton of money. Anyone with a ton of money can buy a Ferrari. All the Ferraris look the same. He wanted his Ferrari to be different. He wanted to make a statement with it. Ferrari sent him a cease and desist for that, for damaging their brand reputation of all things, which apparently they can get butthurt about, because I guess when you buy a Ferrari, you don't really own that Ferrari, do you? Even if you paid cash for it, 100% out the door. Old man Ferrari, even in his grave, says, no, you're going to treat that Ferrari the way we want you to treat that Ferrari. And this is coming up again here in the news and the media because Ferrari has a in-house customization program that basically they make a ton of money on it. That's the problem. So if you're a customer, you got a bunch of cash to burn, you got more money than brains, you can go to Ferrari, say, I want this Ferrari, but I want it to be special. I want a special paint color. I want a special wing on the back or special wheels, whatever. And they'll make it for you up to a certain point because the CEO, by the way, apparently has an opinion that, well, we won't actually make a car that looks bad. We won't do that. So if you want to deliberately make a car that looks bad, we're not going to do that. And he has said now, his name is Benedetto Vigna. Benedetto Vigna. I don't know. As an American, I reserve the right to mispronounce his name. He's an Italian. What is he going to do about it? So anyway, he says, quote, we've been thinking internally, maybe to predefine the color combination. We have to pay attention because we have to defend the values and identity of the brand. So this is Ferrari basically saying that, okay, we made this custom program where you can customize your Ferrari and do whatever you want with it. Except actually, we changed our mind. We don't want you doing whatever you want. You have to pick the colors we want because it might make the car look bad. Pick your mind. Now, they've sued customers. Would they sue a customer who built a Ferrari that they then built or spec'd out? I don't know. I bet you they would. So, hey, coming up after the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to talk about the Dodge Charger EV and why everyone is wrong about it. That's coming up right here.
Nothing says performance like Camaro. Order it with a 4-speed Hurst shifter and 4-wheel power disc brakes, and you've got it made. Camaro, the closest thing to a vet yet.
He's the nut behind the wheel and behind the mic. This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
You know, I gotta say it. Dodge is dead. Dodge is done. They went from being a powerhouse of muscle to selling, a powerhouse of muscle that sold all sorts of flavors of V8 powered machines and exciting cars and And now we have come to this. And, well, what have we come to? Well, the Dodge Charger is an EV. I guess it makes sense because a charger, and I guess you charge a charger. Do you charge a charger on a charger? I guess you do. I guess you do now. Oh, man. So, look, they made everything before, from the naturally aspirated, the 392, all the way up to the, 800-plus horsepower Dodge Demon, down to the, middle ground, the red-eye Hellcats, everything in between. Any sort of flavor of muscle, you could have it. And for a long time, it seemed like they were the only one doing it. And now they've lost touch with their roots. To give you context, they came out with the concept car a year, maybe even 2 years ago now, which was the Charger EV. And it came to much chagrin of enthusiasts around the world because, well, it was electric. But not only was it electric, it had a stupid fake engine noise generator, not just for the interior occupants like Hyundai does with their Elantra and whatever, trying to think of what it's called. Drawing a blank on it. It's an EV. Who cares? They have this. It doesn't just play the car noises on the inside. It plays them on the outside. And they're fake car noises. They don't quite sound like V8 noises. They're different, but they're supposed to embody the sound of Dodge's heritage. You know what the sound of their heritage is? A V8. If you want it to sound like a V8, put a darn V8 in it. Anyway, now that car, by the way, is in the hands. It's in production, and it is now going to automotive journalists, obviously, before it makes it to the rest of us peasants, by the way. And, of course, it's going to all the automotive journalists and all of the big outlets, except for, yours truly. Dodge didn't give me anything. Go figure. Motor Trend got their hands on one, and I went through the review on that, and they praised things like the power of it. Sure, they did that. They praised the handling. They praised that. They said the interior was nice on it. The nicest Dodge had ever built. Good for Dodge for building a car with a nice interior. Fine. Whatever. Okay. But, and they concluded in that article that it was a real muscle car. They started with skepticism. Well, we don't really think it's a real muscle car, but by the end of it, yeah, we're convinced based on the performance and the attributes of the car that it holds up to the muscle car reputation, and it is a real muscle car. I'm sorry, but what? How? How do you come to that conclusion? Do you even know what a muscle car is? You're Motor Trend. You should know what a muscle car is. In fact, I'm pretty sure most car guys are born with that knowledge. I mean, that knowledge is actually integrated, at conception. Okay, that's how far back that goes. And Motor Trend has lost touch. Dodge has lost touch. So I reckon we need a little refresher on the history of a muscle car and what actually constitutes a muscle car. So now, according to Volocars.com, they've got an amazing write-up on the entire lineage of the muscle car, which we just don't have time to get into right here. But it is quite exciting, and it spans all the way back from the 40s onward, basically. And I mean, really, the original, what they attribute the original muscle car being the lightweight Oldsmobile 76, which came with a nice high compression overhead valve V8, which, by the way, was smoking hot for that era. I mean, it really was. Overhead valve, you've got, switch that meaning that your valves aren't actually in the block anymore. They're in the cylinder head, overhead valve, instead of the valve coming up from the block. So, which was how they did it on the old flatheads and stuff. So it had all of that. It was light. It was powerful. And that really spurred things off, but the muscle car really didn't get its name. It didn't really make the stamp of what it was going to be until the 1960s with the 1964 GTO. The GTO is, for all intents and purposes, a mid-sized car. By modern standards, that's a very large automobile, but think of it, back in the day, you had these huge boats of cars, massive machines, and this thing was still big, but a little bit smaller. It's kind of like a mid-sized car, okay? And what they did is they put the biggest darn engine they could find into it, And now I believe that goes back to John DeLorean being involved with the development team on that. Of course, he's known for the DeLorean. It's, the DeLorean car. He's known for the drugs and the scandal afterwards. But a lot of people don't connect John DeLorean to the GTO. But he was involved in that project. And some are, attribute him to being really the mastermind behind it. So you could honestly say that he maybe created the muscle car or, flushed it out to what it really was meant to be. But the key thing here, the GTO really started a craze of muscle cars. Everything from, Chargers and Challengers to Mustangs, Shelbys, the Shelby Cobra, the Olds 442, all of this stuff. Defined an era of muscle through the late 60s and into the mid 1970s, of course, until you get to the oil crisis and you get, hugely inflated gas prices, gas stations running out of fuel, and that was really the death of the muscle car. But then it came back in the late 90s and early 2000s. It came back. Now, what is a muscle car? I think there's some definitions that we need to get clear on here, that Motor Trend needs to get clear on here, that Dodge needs to get clear on here. And there is some debate on the definition, but I have come to you today to set that in stone. And for one, announce that I am the all-seeing authority on these matters. As the host of this show, that is my duty. And a muscle car is simple. It has 5 things that it can do. It must do all 5. It can't do 4 out of 5. It must do all 5. And for one, must be made in the USA. Has to be rear-wheel drive. Has to be a V8. Has to be a 2-door coupe. And it must be able to do a burnout. It must do all 5 things to be considered a muscle car. Everything else is ancillary. Everything else doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And why does it have to be made in the USA? Obviously, because as Americans, the United States, we birthed the muscle car. Therefore, really, we're the original parent of it. We have custody of that. We created cheeseburgers, rock and roll, and muscle cars. Ask anyone outside of the U.S. what the U.S. is known for. And they'll tell you cheeseburgers, rock and roll, and muscle cars. And you're darn right about that. Now, of course, the Germans, the Japanese, by the way, they can make a V8 rear-wheel drive 2-door coupe that does burnouts, and I encourage them to do that. But the problem is, it's not a muscle car, not made in the United States. So, where does that place our EV charger? Where does that place that? Well, for one, it's not even made in the United States. It's made in Canada. Ontario, Canada is where they manufacture the EV chargers. Now, of course, I love our frozen northernly brothers. Well, most of them, but they're not U.S. citizens. And Canada is not the United States. There's nothing we can do about that. Now, granted, I would consider a position where we do annex Canada and make it the 51st state. I would consider that. I do fully support that, by the way. But even then, that wouldn't be enough to make the EV charger a muscle car. It just wouldn't. That's right, by the way. That's right. Annexing Canada is not even enough to make this a muscle car. That's where we're at with this. Now, Motor Trend argued that the only reason we used the V8 in the original Charger was because it was the best way to make power. And had we had EVs as an option, we would have used them then. And then they would have became muscle cars. And that's just speaking in hypotheticals. We're not arguing what could have been a muscle car. We're arguing what is a muscle car, what has been created based on the history, the lineage, all of the above. So I hate to admit it, but there is one true muscle car in the world right now, in the country, in the United States, really, and that's the Ford Mustang. So anyway, based on these factors, the courts have ruled the EV Charger is not a muscle car. It will never be a muscle car. Anyone who thinks it'll be a muscle car should probably go back to the Soviet Union or wherever. That's where they belong. So, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next week when we're talking more cars right here on Automotive ADHD.